Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Buffalo Dash. As usual, all things Colorado basketball. I think before we start, I want to give a quick shout out to the women's basketball team who took down number one ranked Stanford this past weekend in a thrilling overtime victory. Super fun to watch, and really happy for that group of girls who lost that heartbreaker last year's the same Stanford team, and this year they pull it out in the end. So big congratulations to them. More about this team. They went 3-0 last week, Kieran. They looked really impressive.
Yeah, man, they do. This team continues to sort of they're clicking in a lot of different, impressive ways, and they're sort of just firing on all cylinders from a lot of the same perspectives that we talked about in the last show last week, where, McKinley Wright, obviously, as we've seen, the kid has just been, absolutely going off. The team, the chemistry is phenomenal. I mean, they've just been, they're playing team defense, they're playing selfless offense, they're moving the ball well. They're tapping into the depth that they have on that bench that we talked about, and so guys are staying healthy. I mean, things are just moving, like things are just working right for them right now. They're in one of those sort of grooves where things are just all sort of going the way they need to be, and as a result, this team's having a lot of really impressive success in a Pac-12 conference that, while not the SEC or not the ACC necessarily from a basketball perspective, as we know, not the Big Ten, is still a very strong conference with some teams that are all poised to make a splash in in the big dance in March. And so I think that I've been super excited about what I'm seeing from the men's team, and as well as I'm glad that you shouted out the women's team, because that win over that Stanford team with a coach who's broken the record for wins is awesome. But yeah, so I mean, CU basketball, it's a good time to be a CU basketball fan right now, and hopefully we can keep this up. But I mean, what are your takes on the past on the three game win streak over the course of the last week?
Yeah, I'm impressed. This team has not had the easiest schedule up to now. They had the third hardest schedule in the Pac-12. They had to go out to California and then home to that ranked Oregon team, and then having to play 3 games in a week is a lot to ask of a college basketball program. But they took it in absolute stride, and like I said, beat Utah in Utah, and somewhere where they hadn't won in couple years, much like how they have troubles in Arizona. They always seem to have trouble in Utah. Then proceed to absolutely demolish Cal, beating them by 29. And then the biggest, one of the bigger tests they faced this season was having to face Stanford, who was picked to finish top 4 in the Pac-12. And even though they only beat it by 13, that lead was only cut to 13 because we got into that garbage time kind of basketball. Colorado thoroughly demolished them in the second half. And this team looks really good. This team looks like they could be the number one team coming out of the Pac-12. Obviously, that UCLA looks really good, and rightfully so. They're ranked now, and we'll get into that discussion a little bit later about why this team isn't ranked. But yeah, this team is playing with this team. Arguably, could be one of Tad Boyle's best teams he's assembled in recent memory. Like you said, McKinley Wright is not only making a name for himself in the Pac-12, but he's making a name for himself nationally. I think he continues to be an underrated, one of the most underrated point guards in the Pac-12 and in college basketball as a whole. I think Deshaun Schwartz, Maddox Daniels are finally, hitting their stride and being those 3-and-D players that they want. Evan Batty continues to impress me, especially when it goes up against those bigger centers, considering he's not the tallest center out there. The good news is we get Dallas Walton back when we go to the two Washington schools, and he just adds that other layer, like we talked about last week, of not only defensively but offensively. And I've been absolutely impressed with Jabari Walker. Rightfully so, he won freshman player of the week. He's been a monster both offensively, defensively. He's really a guy who helps them out in terms of length because this is a smaller Colorado basketball team. That him paired along with Batty and Walton create a really, really strong trio of players who guard that paint really, really nicely. And like we talked about last week, this bench has just been absolutely fantastic for them, especially when we take McKinley off the court. In previous years, it'd be worry time that we'd go into this offensive slump and we'd squander away a lead or we'd let a deficit we were already in get bigger. But I finally have confidence in this team that when Tad takes off McKinley and Batty and Max Daniels and Deshaun Schwartz, I have confidence that this team can hold court, possibly push out the lead, won't give up any points, and it'll just play they'll play true basketball. And they'll play like they belong in the court.
Yeah, I agree. I think that one of the things that I'm sort of most impressed about this team is that so we've talked about the discipline, right? And we've talked about the discipline that Tad Boyle sort of has clearly harped upon because they do a lot of the little things right, and they don't make the stupid mistakes that sort of can blow a 13-point lead. Obviously college basketball is the kind of sport where you could like a lead can disappear in seconds. And we've seen it happen time and time again, just across college basketball generally. And so they've managed to stave off those kind of hurt, like just tragic sort of endings to their to any games where guys get tired or guys get in foul trouble, things like that, and then they're not able to sort of close the deal on a game that they should have won, right? Mm-hmm. And and I think that not only shows from they're holding other teams to less points on like they're playing good defense, they're lower scoring games, and then when you look at the stat line and you look at the field goal percentages of some of these guys, like McKinley Wright is shooting like better than 50% from the field. He's 53% from the field. That is, that's ridiculous. If a team shoots 40%, 30 to 40% from the field, that is, that's phenomenal shooting, right? You know what I mean? And especially, and then, from the 3-point line, you move it back. It's like guys are still shooting, Deshaun Schwartz is 40% from the line, or 41% from three. Jabari Walker's 47%. It's the kind of thing, those are big stat lines that, that are like, obviously, everybody loves to look at the offensive stat lines like that, but it's a testament to the fact that these guys are, we're putting time in the gym preseason and then are, continuing to just build upon that throughout the season. And then now, we're sitting, with a great ranking. And then I think that one player that you didn't necessarily touch on that definitely deserves the credit though is Jariah Horn. The transfer. He's been playing just phenomenally from that sort of like shooting guard, power forward sort of position, and it's the kind of thing where he's just he's fit into this team phenomenally. I think he brings that sort of maturity to a team that otherwise has some really, really young players. I think, but overall, when we're just talking about the complexion of this team, it's it's not a young team overall necessarily. There's definitely some younger players that it helps to have some of those older players to look up to. But when you take Dallas and then you take Jariah, you take Kin, and then you've got the younger sort of squad as well. You kind of mix that all together. They do just have all the sort of right pieces in play right now, and all those pieces doing exactly what they want them to be doing in order to be finding success. And so if they can just continue to string, do the little things and then, be playing that team basketball that, I was talking about earlier, it's the kind of thing that they're going to see a lot of success this season. But, obviously out of all of those, out of all that, I think there's some talent that you might agree would definitely stands out in particular. And I think that, unsurprisingly, that comes down to McKinley Wright, and the freshman Jabari Walker, who we didn't know anything about coming into the season. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on sort of what you've seen from those guys.
They continue to impress me. McKinley Wright is simply special. His ability to simply take over a game when Colorado needs that guy to just be locked down defensively and then be the guy on offense who creates for other players, who can score himself, who can truly take over a game. He has shown that throughout the season. This truly is his team, and you can tell by the way that he interacts with other players, that the way that the players look up to him. It's truly something special to watch. Like you said, a guy like Jariah Horn, he's been absolutely invaluable to this team. His like you said, his maturity levels and his basketball knowledge and his basketball IQ has really shown up when we needed him. The fact that he is shooting basically 50% from three-point land as a forward is pretty impressive. If you ask me, for a guy his size, he's got a special touch. He's got great vision. It's super fun watching him and Jabari work down in the paint, because that truly is a special matchup right there. The vet and the new guard really meshing really well together. Guys like Maddox Daniels and Deshaun Schwartz, these 3-and-D kind of role player guys are really doing what they need to do, and that's hitting 3-pointers and playing decent defense and being there to hit the open shot. And this team has found some trouble for some reason finishing at the rim and making those easy layups, but they seem to have outgrown that kind of thing. But overall, I've just been really impressed that everybody is playing their kind of basketball. They're fitting into the puzzle. No one's trying to outplay anybody else. Like you said, they're playing really truly team basketball, and I think that's a testament to not only the veterans like McKinley Wright and Evan Batty and Jariah Horn, but that's the younger guys buying into the system, saying, I've got this raw talent that I can't just go out there and try to put it all on the court. It's not going to work. I've got to buy into the system and do what I'm being told, because what I'm being told is going to work. And we've seen that happen, and we saw what happens when Jabari Walker just absolutely goes off and takes over a game and puts 20 points and 10 rebounds. You're going to win games when freshmen are having 20-10 games.
I'm right there with you. I mean, so I grew up a Villanova basketball fan. My parents went to Villanova and stuff. And one of the things that I always loved about Villanova's teams is that Jay Wright always managed to put together these teams of guys who would stick around for like all 4 years, or close to that, right? There was never this sort of, like one and done system, like, you see with Calipari or even with, Coach K and Duke and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, like some of those powerhouse teams, this is a team that, has won national championships in, the last, what is it, 8 years now and stuff, and 6 years, and has done so though with what, while continuing to have these, the system of having a team that sticks together for more than 1 year. It's not just like, a guy plays and heads to the league, or, they're like their whole starting five, like plays, goes to the league, plays, goes to the league. And so they've shown that, like, you can do that with that kind of longer term consistency from teams, right? And so then I'm starting to see that in CU's team, and that's a really exciting thing for me to be able to see. I mean, not that that hasn't been Chad's philosophy over the course of the time that he's been at CU, but that it's starting to reap rewards. And he's got a player like McKinley Wright. I think that like a testament to the selflessness and and sort of team aspect of like just sort of like selflessness and playing for one another on this team is the fact that McKinley Wright in the Cal game broke the all-time assist record for CU, right? And I think that, like, I mean, and for him to break the assist record is perfect. Like it's the perfect sort of metaphor for how this team sort of operates, because it speaks to selflessness. It is quite literally, like looking for the one more pass to find the like guy who's just a little bit more open to take the shot, right? And then, that obviously doesn't take away from the fact that McKinley Wright's this great shooter, that he's a great scorer. And I mean, it's like, I think of it as like, it's playing like Steve Nash kind of basketball, right? You know what I mean? It's like playing like those kind of players who, like, they made a name for themselves as being one of the greatest players of all time without having to be one of the greatest scorers of all time.
Yeah.
And I think that, like knowing your role, playing your role, and then having trust that doing so and just doing your job is going to lead to the like broader success of the team is a tough thing for a lot of players who have this really, really significant talent coming into college to buy into, especially when playing for their high school teams. They were likely the guy who was the go-to for the scoring, for the for the defense, for all of the above, because in order to play at the collegiate level, obviously you have to be that that much better than your peers. And so to see that people are like playing in their roles and doing their jobs, and then that is yielding the kind of success when against Cal it was nearly a 30-point, 1 point shy of a 30-point win. That's awesome. I mean, granted, Cal's not the best team in the Pac-12, but like nonetheless, I mean, a 30-point win in an in-conference game, yeah. I'll take that, at 7 days out of the week. You know what I mean? And so I think that has been a super, super exciting aspect of the CU basketball team that I know that then they'll be able to continue to carry forward with them through the rest of the season. And I don't expect any of that to change. You know what I mean? I don't whereas when you're just relying on one shooter who gets super hot or things things of that nature, yeah, like that can change from game to game. But like guys just like playing their roles and doing their jobs and allowing that to just work itself out in terms of a win, like that's the kind of thing you can rely on every single game.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, not necessarily player-wise, but Tad Boyle it truly is the architect of all the success. His philosophy is, it's not so much about the offense. It's getting the rebounds, not getting out rebounded, playing lockdown defense that we've seen this team when need be can absolutely put the clamps on other teams and truly force teams down to the last seconds of the shot clock, make them take bad shots, rebound the ball, and then play their offense. The fact that they're still shooting 84.5% from the free throw line is sheerly ridiculous. That, like we said before, the college basketball team is shooting nearly 85% from the free throw line. That's just an added advantage come the end of the season, the Pac-12 tournament, and eventually March Madness. That when these games get to the second half and we're under 4 minutes, and you're in the bonus, that you get fouled and you have a chance for easy 2 points right there, and I have confidence in basically this whole entire team that they'll make both of those. That it's crazy to think that it's crazy to think that a college basketball team is shooting 85% from the free throw line. That just goes to show that people have bought into what Tad Boyle brings to the table in terms of Colorado. That a guy like McKinley Wright, like you said, has stayed all 4 years. That he had an opportunity to go to the draft, and this previous year he's like, no, I want to go back and I want to prove people wrong that I can get better, that I can go back to this team and be the leader they need. And he's absolutely proved every single thing he wanted to do coming back, that this team is going to contend for the Pac-12 title. This team is going to contend come March Madness, because like we're going to get to in about 2 minutes when we explain, why this team isn't ranked, that this team is truly one of the best teams in the nation. They deserve to be ranked in the top 25. And the KenPom ranking and the net rankings will show, that we'll get to in a minute, that this team, like I said, is going to compete at the highest level against teams like Villanova and Michigan and Texas. That Colorado arguably is the best team in the Pac-12, and I have confidence that this team can go out there and compete with any other team in the nation. They showed it against Tennessee, that while we lost, because Tennessee is now ranked 6th in the nation for a reason, we played them tough, and we might have lost by 8, but we still played them tough.
So I agree, and I think that just to really hammer home one point that you made, which this is something that I really should have I should have led with, honestly, is that the fact that it just reminded me, as you brought up the fact that Colorado is 84.5% from free throw percentage. So as you were talking, I was like, this has got to be one of the best in the nation, right? It is the best in the nation. It is the best free throw percentage in the nation, right? And out of and to round out the top 10, Oklahoma and Virginia are the only two teams that are also part of Big Five schools that are also, and they come in at 10 and 8th in terms of free throw percentage ranking. That they're the only other Power 5 schools that are in that top 10, right? And so again, I mean, like it's just I feel like it's sort of easy, to come up with one stat after another almost with this Tad Boyle team that is just like a testament to the discipline, the depth, and the selflessness of this team. And it's obviously, it's showing in the way that they continue to just handily beat these in-conference teams, and what happens with me is it just gets me so excited for March when it's the kind of thing where they can make a run and people are going to be like people are just going to wonder where the hell did this Colorado team come from?
Yeah.
All of a sudden they're going on this crazy run, and it's like, well, actually they've been shooting like the best at the free throw line from the nation, things like that. And so I mean, it's just the kind of thing that like it's almost we've been seeing it unfold. You know what I mean? We're seeing it unfold sort of right before our eyes.
Yeah. I mean, I think I wouldn't say that the thing that's gone wrong this season, but this team, like I had just stated, that this team continues to be completely overlooked. But it's kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing. The AP rank has always been this, especially when it comes to basketball, very East Coast bias. I think the fact that UCLA finally got ranked this week was I think UCLA had been robbed for weeks because they're truly a top 2 team in the Pac-12, right up there with us, I believe. But Colorado was 11-3. They have win against ranked Oregon. They have wins against opponents who were chosen to finish higher in the Pac-12 than Colorado. This team was picked to finish seventh in the Pac-12, and they look like the team to beat in the Pac-12. I think the important thing that people overlook is that when it comes time for the committee to choose their teams, choose the seeds when it comes to the March Madness, they look at everything but the AP poll. The important stats that matter is that in the net ranking, which is done by the NCAA themselves, we are currently ranked seventh in the nation, ahead of schools like Villanova, Virginia, Illinois, Texas Tech, Wisconsin, Kansas, Alabama. Teams that are currently ranked in the AP right now, that were ranked in the top 10 in the nation in the net ranking. And then when it comes to the KenPom ranking, we are currently 13th. Those are fantastic rankings that people don't really look at because they're more the lesser known kind of more internal rankings. People just look at the AP poll and they see that Colorado's ranked, and we're like, oh, they're getting absolutely scammed out of this. But in reality, it's like we're sitting pretty right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I saw, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I believe the coaches poll ranked CU at 23.
Yeah.
And so it's the kind of thing where, the rankings, you just like all other factors, right, point to the fact that CU should just be in this top group. I mean, and it's the kind of thing where the fact that I feel like we're living the football season all over again, where the fact that Oregon's ranked number 21 and we beat them. Like it's like get the like this is like transitive property, and then like one of our losses is to UCLA, who's 24. It's this doesn't add up, and so it's the kind of thing where here's again us facing the issue of like there's this politics that goes into ranking teams,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I mean, fortunately, like you said, the AP ranking is not what decides March Madness, and we can go win the Pac-12 championship and earn ourselves a top 5 to 10 seed, probably a top 5 seed
Mm-hmm.
in March Madness. Should we win the conference championship outright? And if we were to win the conference championship, and the season, the conference by the season,
Mm-hmm.
that would absolutely not just like the numbers just can't lie there, right? So, but here again, we face this politics of there's the brands that have established themselves as supposed to be good at whatever insert sport here, right? There's teams like an Illinois or a Gonzaga or something, right, that are in the top 25 for basketball, or an Indiana, right, in that will be ranked well in basketball, and it's the kind of thing where they'll be ranked well because it's like they associate as like, oh, that's like a basketball school, right? Like they don't even have to be good at football, but it's like Gonzaga doesn't even have a football team. But it's the kind of thing where everybody thinks Gonzaga and they're like, oh yeah, that's that West Coast team that like never gets the respect, right? And they're like actually pretty good. It's like, yeah, no, Gonzaga, phenomenal team. But the thing is like everybody overlooks to you when it comes to basketball and football, because I get it. Like over the last, the course of the last 15 years or so, we haven't been outstanding in either of those sports.
No.
However, this year, like in both of those sports, we have shown that we are beating teams that get that like brand respect, like in Oregon. Like in Oregon on several, like in both football and basketball now, it's like I've got like a vendetta against Oregon. I like hate Oregon now because it's like for some reason the stupid green O has like an association in people's brains as being good, and they're like they're sure they're good. They're not as good as us though. Like it's just the kind of thing where I don't know. It's absolutely, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. And I wonder what it's going to take, especially given, in a year like this where you can't, where we were able to play Tennessee, that was, and a very, very early season, lost by, we lost by very little to them. I'm blanking on what the score, final score of that was. There's a close game though. It's the kind of thing where in terms of out of game stuff though, like, out of conference games, it's tough. Like it's tough, because we're not able to play out of conference, and people could just argue, oh yeah, the Pac-12 is not that good. It's like, yeah, well, we can't play out of conference that much. We can't come to your East Coast and play, and beat all your teams that well. And so because it's like we're confined just regionally, but this is I don't know, it's a good team, man.
Yeah. So we only lost to Tennessee by 9 in Tennessee, by the way.
Right. Yeah, in Nashville.
Out there. And then we only lost to UCLA by 30 in Pauley Pavilion. So it's like, and then obviously our other loss was Arizona, but you all talked about how we just can't seem to win in Tucson. But like I said, the AP poll, it's such a sham because in KenPom, Tennessee is currently ranked 6th in KenPom and 4th in net rankings. So it's like in the net, we're higher than UCLA. UCLA is actually behind SC in the net ranking, so it's a complete sham that the AP ranking. Yeah, sure, it's nice to say we were nationally ranked in the AP poll because that's the public thing people see. But like we said, when it comes to March, that this team is going to continue to win games, continue to be overlooked, which this team loves to be the underdog. That, like we said, the fact they were picked 7th to finish 7th in the Pac-12, and they're currently tied for 3rd. And couple huge games coming up. They get to play UCLA at home. They get to play USC at home. The road trip to Oregon should always be fun. But this team is winning the games they're supposed to win, and they're losing the games that they were supposed to lose, like the UCLA and the Tennessee game. They aren't getting blown out. They lost by 9. They lost by 3. Those aren't blowout games. A blowout game is when we beat Cal by 29 points against a conference opponent. Like you said, they're not the best. They're not the best basketball team, but they're still a Power 5 team that recruits decently. They still have good players, and they lost by 29 points. Yeah. It's like when it comes down to it, these are the things that the committee looks at, and this team will be rewarded come March with a good seed that they will go far, and they just got to continue playing their basketball, riding this kind of momentum shift into the later parts of the season in the Pac-12 tournament.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's just like the one thing that CU fans can take some solace in is that unlike football, where the AP rank was everything, right? It's like it's like in basketball, it's nice to say like it's nice to see the game and see like number like 20 something CU or whatever, right? But in football, it was everything, right? That was how we were going to get, a bid into like any kind of bowl game, right? And in addition, besides the conference championship route, which that still limited us in terms of what bowl game we would get into, and things of that nature. Basketball is it is a fair system. It is a fair process.
Yeah,
and it is the kind of thing where if you're good enough, you can win games, and no one can tell you like, oh, but the committee decided, the hand of God decided otherwise, right? It's like, no, in basketball, we get to just we can stake our claim by just winning this Pac-12 championship, which, I have a lot of optimism, and I think like justified optimism that we, are likely to do. And as you said, then, land ourselves a solid seed for March and go dancing, man.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how this team, finishes the end of January, goes into February, the real crunch time when it comes to, making your case to make the tournament. But I would highly recommend watching this team tomorrow at 7 p.m. on ESPN2 if you get it. You want to see a good basketball team play, go watch Colorado basketball. You're going to be thoroughly impressed. But with that, I want to thank you guys so much on behalf of Kieran and I for coming to another episode of Buffalo Dash. The usual ending segment stuff. Follow the socials, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow the YouTube channel at Dashboards TV. Check out the website, dashboards.tv. Follow Kieran and I on Twitter below our pretty faces. Like I said, watch this team tomorrow. They're really exciting to watch. I know I'll be watching. Like I said, this team is truly the team to beat in the Pac-12. But with that, I want to thank you guys so much. And as always, Sko Buffs.